This happened when I was around 7 or 8 years old, so back in the early 2000s. My neighborhood was generally safe, except for the occasional drunks and junkies, but everyone knew everyone there, so I never felt scared to play out on the street. One evening, I was playing outside with my friend. She was kind of simple-minded and always had her head in the clouds, whereas I was always aware of bad men out there, since an incident had happened to 2 child family members of mine in a park many years prior to this. I noticed a man, maybe in his 50s with glasses and a silver car, parked outside an apartment building watching us. At first, I just assumed that maybe it was someone waiting to pick someone up, but he did continue to stare at us. I told my friend to come and play somewhere else, and so we did, and the silver car drove up and stopped to watch us again. Me and my friend kept moving around the street. It was a long neighborhood, but it was narrow, so there weren't a lot of places to go, but we kept on moving, and so did the car. Also, I knew that it was around 7 p.m, and my mum, she worked until that time, and would be heading our way soon. So I wanted to try and keep a distance with this weirdo until she arrived in the street. My friend didn't know why we kept moving and got annoyed, so we had an argument and we both stupidly went separate ways. I was aware of the creep watching us and just knew that something wasn't right, and I should never have left her, but I stormed home in a bad mood and the car followed my friend instead of me. I didn't go inside my house. Instead, I waited outside to see if the car would follow me. And that's when I noticed it followed her, and this time it pulled up beside her. My friend, being her, walked over to the car. I assumed that he said something to her, and that's when I ran down to grab her. Maybe a stupid move, but she was my best friend, and I didn't want her to get kidnapped. Luckily, my mum was walking down the hill at the end of our street as this was happening. I screamed for my mum, and the creep panicked and drove away as quick as lightning. Before even telling my mum what happened, she knew that something was wrong with the way the guy just took off like that. I still think about that day, a lot, and I think about what could have happened if I hadn't noticed the guy watching us, or grabbed my friend when I did, or my mum came home when she did. Maybe nothing, but I remember feeling creeped out as all hell. At that age, I obviously didn't know about kidnapping and sexual assault and all that, so I could never have imagined it then. But now, it still gives me shivers to imagine what he could have had planned for us. I now have nieces at that age myself, and because of what happened that day, I never let them play out on the street. It's just too unsafe. When my doctor went on vacation, he is human after all, he didn't like to leave us without any help. Illness doesn't know holidays after all, he would say. So he looked for doctors who could replace him. Since the newbies don't have many patients, they were the ones that we would often see. But for those 2 particular weeks, it was a middle-aged man who came. Who cares, right? He's got his diploma and all, he would be able to help us while our doctor is away. So here I am, 12-year-old, with a pain in my foot. It was hurting so bad that I could barely put it on the floor, so we went to see the man. He was kind and examined me. He manipulated my foot harshly, and it really hurt, and rapidly switched to my arm. He manipulated that for a long time, asking me if that hurt me. Does it hurt? I said no, and if I do this, and I said of course not. Maybe like this? Why would it hurt? Because it's painful, apparently. Well, I'm no doctor, so I couldn't really say why he was doing the shit that he was doing, but it looked really weird to me. And then he prescribed me with some Stilnox. If you don't know what this is, it's used for insomnia. Yeah, like what the hell? Anyway, we didn't know what this thing was, so we left and I took some. In the hours that followed, my foot was still as painful as before, but oh well, Rome wasn't built in one night, I suppose. My mum asked me to give her an empty box that was by my side. I lifted it, lowered my eyes, and I saw them. This giant mass of crawling bugs in this box. I yelled and threw that away. Wondering what was going on, my mum fetched and examined it. "Quick, put the box down. What the hell are you doing?" "What? It's just a box." "Those bugs, they're crawling everywhere." It's empty. Look." She showed me the inside, but for me, those disgusting creatures were still there. She put her hand in and moved it here and there, and it passed through the bugs, as if they were immaterial. They didn't try to climb on her arm, nor were they disturbed by her hand. What the hell is wrong with me? I only drank water. I ate the stuff that she ate. I wasn't on any drugs or anything. As we wondered what the hell was going on, we decided to put in our Christmas decorations. That would help me think about something else, I suppose. So I decorated the tree. Well, the bottom, since I was sit on a chair. I couldn't stand up too long. But once again, I freaked out. Hands, white hands, sticking out from the tree, waving a little as they were trying to fetch something. We could pass through them, of course, as if they were ghosts, just like the bugs. It was very obvious by now that I was having severe hallucinations. If you search the web for this medication that I took, you'd see it was the cause. But we had no internet at the time, so we had to read what was written on the box. Composition, posology. But for the side effects, good luck. Only some common things were written, so nothing about hallucination. Hell, we would go back to the doctor the day after, but for now, I just had to live with that. I could stand the creepy hands, but the bugs, man, heck no. So my mum helped me go into my bedroom. "Do you see something here?" No, I can't see anything." "Then I guess stay here, and if something shows up, just call for me, okay?" I saw other things during that night, and it was long as hell. But everything was gone in the morning, and we went back to the doctor. "What the hell did you give to her? She freaked out the whole night because of hallucinations." "Oh, okay, then she might have a problem there too." He gave me another medicine, Abilify. "What's that, you say?" "Well, it's used for schizophrenic and bipolar people, but we didn't know that. So I took it and went to school. I still couldn't put my foot on the floor, but I had no choice. During the first hour, I felt irritated. Everything was getting on my nerves. But after that, I slowly began to suffocate. I couldn't breathe, as if a bubble of void was forming around me. So I breathed harder, thinking that it was going to disappear in a few minutes. My comrades near me were annoyed by the noise that I was making, so the teacher put me away in the back of the classroom. But man, it got worse. As I was lacking air, my vision blurred and darkened. I was going blind. Then I heard my surroundings as if my head was put in a jar. I panicked a little, and I began to feel like ants were running through all of my body. And then I had no force to stand still, so I just collapsed on the table. I was still conscious, so I heard the teacher tell me that it wasn't bedtime. "I'm not sleeping, sir. I don't feel good." I was slurring and I couldn't quite speak clearly. He approached me and he realized what was going on. I finally woke up after some time in a hospital bed. The doctors there said that I could have died if my school didn't phone them in time. My mother was here too and already told them about my foot, Stillnox, and Abilify. Do you have problems with your sleep?" No. Why? Were you diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar?" No. Then you shouldn't have taken those medicines. Who was sick enough to give them to you?" "Oh, I don't know his name. Dr. Trey asked him to take his place while he was on holidays." I stayed some days in the hospital after that. And when I got home, our real doctor was back, so we went to tell him. And, needless to say, he was shocked. He reported him to the order, and guess what they told him? Apparently, this man had been banned years ago from the doctors' community. Yeah, this guy who put my life in danger, apparently he did some pretty shady shit. Even now, I still have crisis where I can't breathe anymore. It isn't as violent as it was, but it's still really horrible. I don't know if he did harm to the others as well, and if they reported him too, but he deserves to go to jail since he can't refrain from practicing, and honestly, he could have killed me. This all happened over the course of a few years. I was around 16 when this first started, living at home with my mum in a small town in the UK. I had just gotten a job at a supermarket, 15 minutes walk from my house. My mum was a manager there, but we worked different shifts, so I'd often walk to and from work alone. The route I would take to work took me through the back alley, behind our house that separates our housing estate from the main busy road. This back alley then turns into an opening that is surrounded by trees and bushes. Often, as a kid, I would find dirty needles and beer cans littering the ground amongst the trees, where me and my friends would play hide and seek around there. It became so much of a problem at one point that our housing estate rallied together to clean it all up and cut back the overgrown weeds, nettles and bushes in the hopes that our local council would create a safe place for us children to play. It never happened though, and over the years, it's just gone right back to how it was, despite all the hopes and effort that was put into the neighborhood project. At night, that opening becomes pretty sinister too. There aren't any lights, and you often feel like something, or more likely someone, is watching you from behind the trees. It was a favorite for drug addicts and drunks, so eventually, my mum stopped us from playing around there, and would get mad if she ever caught us trying to sneak through the alley. We were kids though, and curious, and would usually find any opportunity to do exactly what our parents told us not to do. But being 16, I was not a kid per se anymore, and it was the quickest route to work. So it began with just a feeling. I'd walk through the alley and clearing with the sense that someone else was there, but I would just put it down to being alone and paranoid. Eventually, after a few weeks of starting my job, I would hear footsteps behind me. Too scared to look, I'd quicken my pace and be out onto the main road before too long, but nobody would ever follow me out, leaving me feeling a little stupid and scolding myself for letting the paranoia play tricks on my mind. But that all changed when I actually saw him. I'd finished my shift at 10 p.m, so it was around 15:15 that I got to the alley. I heard the familiar sound of footsteps, but had gotten so used to hearing them and seeing nothing that I just ignored it. That was, until I heard him cough. I stole a look and I noticed a tall, very stocky man directly behind me. It was so dark that I couldn't actually see his features, other than the fact that he was smiling. I hurried my pace and began to dial my mum's number, but before I knew it, I was clear of the alley and onto the street. I looked behind me one last time and saw the man head off in the opposite direction. He was wearing old tracksuit bottoms, white scruffy trainers, a jumper and a white sports cap. When I got home, my mum asked me about the missed call, but I just told her that it was an accident and took myself off to the shower and bed. Why I didn't just tell her, I'll never know. Fast forward a few more months, it had become a regular occurrence to see this guy on my way back to work, and even on my way home, and a lot of the time, he would even follow me up to the supermarket. Me being naive, chalked it up to coincidence. Maybe he was just going to do a bit of shopping. Yeah, it's a bit weird that it always seems to be on the days that I'm working, and at the exact same time that I happen to be walking to and from work. But it's not as if he was stalking me, right? Things like that don't happen to girls like me. I eventually started to spot him inside the supermarket, always standing at the ends of the aisles that I was working in. He would either pretend that he was looking at something on the shelves, or quickly run off out of sight. If I was on checkout duty, he would always choose my till to queue up in. Even if others were free and mine was busy too. He wouldn't say anything though, just brush my hand when handing over money to pay for whatever stupid stuff that he was queued up for, a bar of chocolate or a tin of baked beans, something you could have quite easily paid for at a self-checkout where it was quicker and easier. I had become increasingly uncomfortable with the amount of times I would see him, and started to realize that his odd behavior wasn't just coincidence or me being paranoid. He was, in fact, stalking me. On one particular shift, during the day, I noticed him again. I was in the pet aisle stacking tins of dog food. He came over to me and asked if I had a dog. I said that I didn't and turned my back to him. He said that he had a Jack Russell and asked if I liked Jack Russells. I said yes, I like all dogs, and tried to stand to walk away. He sort of loomed over me though and said, "Do you want to come on dog walks with me?" To which I replied, "Not really, thank you. I've got to get back to work," and speedily walked off towards the staff door that leads to the back offices. I bumped into the security guard on the way, Alex, and quickly began explaining to him what had just happened. What he told me literally made my skin crawl. He said that he'd been following him around for over an hour, and it turns out that freaky Jack Russell guy had been following me too, everywhere that I went, hiding behind the aisles and people so that I couldn't see him. If I went into the back to get more stock to replenish the shelves, he would wait around near the doors, just out of sight, and then follow me again. He had even seen him rub his crotch while looking at me. Well, this prompted him to radio the boss to alert him of what was going on, only to look up and he had disappeared. That's when he had gone looking for him, but had bumped into me instead. He told me to go into the back and not to worry, that he was going to kindly ask him to leave. And from what I have been told, he wasn't so kind and practically manhandled this guy out of the store, while telling him that he was barred from ever coming back because he was a creep that got off on stalking 16-year-old girls. Anyway, after my shift, Alex gave me a lift home, which I was hugely thankful for as I was pretty shook up. A few months later, Alex was sacked for stealing some chicken for his dinner, apparently. In his defense, a lot of the staff did it. They'd pick something from the ready-to-eat counter, like a sandwich or some chicken wings, and would take them straight into the back rather than pay at the tills first. He was just the only one that got caught for it. Ironic, considering he was supposed to be the security guard. Because of this, they hired a new security guard, and almost instantly, I began to see freaky Jack Russell guy back in the store. Alex being the only one apart from me remembering his face, it's like he felt it was safe to come back into the store. Only this time, he brought his wife and children with him. Every time. So, me being me, too soft for my own good, I left him to it and didn't tell anyone about him being back. He would still choose my till to go through and would make a big show of kissing his wife and children. I just ignored him though, and tried to get the transaction over as soon as I possibly could. And he would often still turn up in the aisles I was working in, but would always have at least one of his children with him, so I just didn't say anything. Now, at this point, it had been close to 2 years that this had all been going on. I was suffering from health issues, so I had to take a lot of time off work. I spent a few weeks in the hospital, and then a further 12 weeks recovering at home, and then I was eased back into work with a couple of shifts per week, only 4 hours long. It was after one of these shifts, at around 10:15 p.m, that I happened to be walking through the clearing again. I was about halfway through when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I swear, I nearly jumped out of my skin, did a sort of yelp and spanned around to see freaky Jack Russell guy standing directly behind me, holding a rose. He told me that he'd missed me and said that he was glad that I was better. How the hell did he know that? He commented on the fact that I'd lost weight and said that he preferred a bit of meat on his women, but that it was okay because he was a good cook and could soon fatten me up. He then said that he was disappointed that I'd gotten new blinds on my bedroom window because it made it harder to see me. Right, okay. So at this point, I had had enough of this guy's bullcrap and said, in no uncertain terms, to leave me the fuck alone, or the next time I saw his wife, I would tell her everything, and that I'd be paying a little visit to the police station if I ever saw his ugly fucking face again. And then I ran. I ran all the way home and locked every door and window behind me. I sat all night that night, terrified that I'd see him outside my bedroom window. But you know what? It actually worked. I didn't see him again. I quit my job at the supermarket and bought a car so that I wouldn't have to walk down any creepy alleyways again. Now I'm 26, so it's been a long time since those days. I was at my sister's house having a catch-up and playing with my nieces when she starts to tell me about this guy that had been brought into her work. My sister works in a prison and usually spends a shift signing new prisoners in and allocating them to their new cells. This is an important job because you don't want to put a murderer in with a pedophile. Things could get ugly, to say the least. Scratch that. You do want to do that, but it could cost her a job, so you basically can't. Anyway, this guy that had been brought in was in for stalking, assault with a deadly weapon, and rape. She said that she recognized him instantly, as when she used to work at the same supermarket's petrol station that I worked at, he had followed her home on more than one occasion. Apparently this kept happening too until she finally moved out and never saw him again. My sister is 9 years older than me. She said that she had read the details of the case after allocating him to his cell and had gotten his full name to search a photo of him on Facebook to show me. And you guessed it. It was him, Freaky Jack Russell guy. Apparently, he had been following this 17-year-old girl for a while, and she had reported it to the police, but they didn't do anything. This girl had seen him outside of her house and on her way to and from work. She worked at a different supermarket than I did, half an hour from my house. After a particularly late shift, the girl was walking around the back of the store towards the bus stop when somebody grabbed her from behind. After everything went down, she rang her mum, who rang the police. They caught him through CCTV images and DNA, and now he's locked up for 6 years. The thing that really gets to me, though, is that I may have been able to stop this from happening if I had just rang the police and told them what was happening to me. I mean, would they have arrested him sooner? Would it have discouraged him from taking it that step further and actually hurting someone? I do blame myself sometimes. But I can't help but be so grateful that it didn't happen to me. But he did have a rose that night that he spoke to me in the alley. Was he planning on doing those depraved things to me?
G'day mates, it's Busta here. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks again to the Hive members that bravely shared their stories for us all here, and I hope you guys are all doing really well. For the chance to have your story feature in a video, you can send your story to my email, which is in the description below. If you would like more scary stories too, you can click on the card at the top right of your screen or on one of the annotations on your screen right now. As always guys, it would be awesome if you could like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for updates throughout the week. And also, if you would like content early and completely advert-free for as little as $1 a month, feel free to click on the link to my Patreon account and sign up there for regular MP3 format stories. Thanks again for tuning in and for all the love as always, guys, and I'll see you mates in the next one.